The San Francisco 49ers are entering one of the most fascinating and quietly volatile stretches of their offseason, and the latest developments paint a picture of a roster that is both evolving and, in some areas, walking a very fine line between stability and uncertainty. It starts with a move that, on the surface, might not generate headlines, but could end up having a significant impact on the offensive line. The addition of Robert Jones is the kind of signing that defines how this front office operates in the margins. Undrafted, overlooked, and coming off an injury, Jones represents both a gamble and an opportunity. At 6'4" and over 320 pounds, he brings the physical profile the 49ers covet for their interior line. But what makes this move particularly intriguing is his familiarity with the system. Having spent multiple seasons under Mike McDaniel, who comes directly from the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree, Jones steps into a scheme that won't require a steep learning curve. That matters more than most people realize. In Shanahan's offense, timing, footwork, and cohesion along the offensive line are everything. A player who already understands the terminology and blocking concepts has a real chance to compete immediately, especially at a position like left guard where continuity is critical. But let's not ignore the reality here. Jones ranked near the bottom tier of starting guards last season and is coming off a serious neck injury that wiped out his entire year. This isn't a plug-and-play solution, it's a calculated risk. The 49ers are betting on development, system familiarity, and perhaps most importantly, the idea that their coaching staff can elevate a player beyond what he has shown so far. And that brings us to a much bigger concern that could define the entire trajectory of this team heading into the season: the contract situation with Trent Williams. Right now, the two sides are reportedly nowhere close to an agreement. That is not just a minor offseason storyline. That is a potential franchise-altering situation. Williams isn't just another left tackle. He is the anchor of this entire offense, the player who allows Shanahan to run his full playbook with confidence. If that situation deteriorates further, the ripple effects would be massive. There is already talk of contingency plans, and one name that has surfaced is Taylor Decker. A proven veteran with Pro Bowl credentials, Decker would represent a legitimate fallback option. But let's be clear, replacing Trent Williams is not something you simply solve by signing another player. Even someone as experienced as Decker would represent a downgrade, and more importantly, a stylistic shift in how this offensive line operates. If the 49ers are even considering this scenario, it tells you everything about how tense these negotiations have become. And if things truly spiral to the point of a trade or release, this team would be forced into a reactive mode that could reshape their entire offseason strategy. Now, while the offensive line situation is simmering, the defensive side of the ball is quietly undergoing a transformation of its own. The 49ers are clearly prioritizing the trenches, and their interest in edge prospects like Romello Heights signals a continued commitment to building pressure from the outside. Heights' production last season speaks for itself, but what stands out is how he fits the evolving defensive philosophy. With Nick Bosa as the centerpiece and players like Osa Odigizwa anchoring the interior, the 49ers are looking for complementary pieces who can bring versatility and explosiveness. This ties directly into the broader draft strategy, where names like Keldrick Falk are gaining traction. Falk represents the kind of player this defense desperately needs, someone who can dominate against the run while still generating consistent pressure. The numbers may not jump off the page in terms of sacks, but the underlying metrics tell a different story. Pressure rate, quick wins off the line, and the ability to disrupt plays before they develop are all traits that translate at the next level. And that's the key here. The 49ers are not just chasing production. They are chasing traits that fit their system and address the specific weaknesses that showed up last season, particularly their inability to consistently win early downs and force opponents into predictable passing situations. But the most fascinating aspect of this offseason might be how close the 49ers came to looking completely different on the defensive line. The ripple effects of the Max Crosby trade discussions are a perfect example of how one move can alter everything. Had that deal gone through with Dallas, there is a very real chance that Odigizwa never ends up in San Francisco. Think about that for a moment. One of the key pieces of this defensive front could have been off the board entirely, simply because of how the dominoes fell in another organization's negotiations. It's a reminder that roster building in the NFL is often as much about timing and circumstance as it is about strategy. If you're enjoying this kind of deep dive analysis into how every move shapes the 49ers' future, now is the time to subscribe to the channel and stay locked in, because this offseason is far from over and the biggest moves may still be ahead. Shifting to the offensive skill positions, there's a noticeable shift in philosophy that's beginning to take shape, particularly at wide receiver. The addition of Mike Evans already hinted at a departure from the traditional Shanahan mold, and the interest in prospects like Denzel Boston only reinforces that idea. Boston is not your typical 49ers receiver. He's not built around elite speed or yards after catch ability. Instead, he brings size, physicality, and an ability to win contested catches. That's a significant departure from the type of receivers this offense has traditionally prioritized. And that raises an important question. Is this a temporary adjustment or a long-term evolution of the offense? With players like Christian Kirk and Ricky Pearsall in the mix, there is still a foundation of route running and YC ability. But adding a player like Evans and potentially drafting someone like Boston suggests that Shanahan is looking to diversify his passing attack. That could be a direct response to what we saw last season, where the offense at times struggled in contested situations and lacked a true physical presence on the outside. Boston's ability to win in those moments, combined with his reliability as a pass catcher, could fill a gap that has quietly existed in this offense. At the same time, there are legitimate concerns about his ability to separate and handle physical coverage at the next level. These are the kinds of risks that come with shifting your offensive identity, and it will be fascinating to see how the 49ers balance those factors moving forward. Meanwhile, the running back room is undergoing its own subtle transition. The departure of Brian Robinson Jr. to the Atlanta Falcons might not seem like a major loss, but it highlights a lingering question behind Christian McCaffrey. Who is the true RB2 on this team? The current group, featuring younger and relatively unproven players, suggests that the 49ers are either confident in their development or preparing to address the position in the draft. Given McCaffrey's workload and importance to the offense, having a reliable backup is not a luxury, it's a necessity. And that brings everything full circle to the bigger picture. The 49ers are a team that is still firmly in contention, but they are also navigating a series of critical decisions that will determine whether they can sustain that status. From the uncertainty surrounding Trent Williams, to the calculated risks on the offensive line, to the evolving identity at wide receiver, and the continued investment in the defensive front, every move is interconnected. This is not a team making random adjustments. This is a front office trying to recalibrate while staying competitive at the highest level. And as the draft approaches, those decisions will only become more magnified. The players they choose, the positions they prioritize, and the risks they are willing to take will define not just the upcoming season, but the next phase of this franchise. Because in the NFL, especially for a team like the 49ers, the margin between staying elite and falling behind is razor thin. And right now, they are walking that line. If you want to stay ahead of every development, every roster move, and every strategic shift shaping the 49ers, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because this is one of the most pivotal off-seasons this franchise has faced in years, and we're breaking it all down every step of the way.